Good afternoon, everybody. Since I'm recovering, it's still time for a sit down and talk video. I haven't really made many of these in the past year. Still wearing my compression vest, I'm recovering fine. Don't worry about me. I kind of want to hop right into this because this is probably the first time that I've been excited about a Harley Davidson in quite some time. Stick with me here because I know that Harley isn't really my, I guess, territory, for lack of a better term. Let's just say when it comes to Harleys, I'm not usually the first person that comes to mind. And before we get started, I want to say that I'm a YouTuber. My opinions are just that, opinions. They mean nothing to anybody else. So if I say something you disagree with, just remember it's just a YouTuber. I have opinions, that happens sometimes. That being said, Harley has done it again. Harley's announced 4 bikes, or rather like 3. We've already known about the live wire, and we'll get into that. I mean, look at these new bikes they've announced. Look at the lines, look at the curvatures, look at that beastly looking engine in some of these. I like the big wheel and the tiny spokes. I mean, it really gives it this good look. And then there's this electric bike, man. Look at the classicness to this electric bike. Electric Harley, I mean, it even looks good, you know? A Street Fighter, a low displacement Street Fighter, a fairingless. Look at this thing. And then what the fuck is this? We'll get into the sport touring bike in a second, because I have a lot of opinions on that. And if you're looking for like specs and data and like solid opinions, I'd like you to go check out my buddy Shade Tree Surgeon. His video breaking down some of these bikes is absolutely brilliant. You'll appreciate his opinions much more than mine, because he's the Harley dude. What I'm trying to say is that he's more well-spoken than I am, and he can put it into better terms than me. Now, if you came to this video expecting me to bash on Harley, you'd be wrong. I mean, we'll get there. Don't worry, we'll get there. But that's not the premise of this video. I'm actually very surprised at some of the decisions that Harley's making here. According to some articles I've read, supposedly Harley wants to put out a 975cc Street Fighter, liquid-cooled V-twin. I mean, like, that is so unlike Harley ever. If you were to tell me that Harley had concepts for a Street Fighter, and don't get me wrong, I know we had Buell, but that wasn't really like Harley. I mean, it was in the sense that they were unreliable and terrible bikes, but it wasn't really a Harley, was it? It was more of a Harley designed sport bike, I guess. But rather than calling up Eric Buell and saying, hey, listen, can we make another series of motorcycles? And he'd be all like, yeah, sure. And then Harley would be all like, yeah, we're gonna cancel that tomorrow. Harley took it upon themselves to put their own sport bike in their own name. I say sport bike. And it has the visual essence of a sport bike. Shade Tree compared it to that of a Ducati. He said it looked a lot like a Diavel, and I'll give him this, it does. But here's the thing about naked upright sport bikes is that they all kind of look the same no matter what you do. For me, it looks more like a Z800 or like even like an older Z1000. But it does carry all the characteristics. It personifies a sport bike. Liquid cooled. I mean, most sport bikes are liquid cooled because, you know, high RPM, you need liquid cooling. Low displacement. Most sport bikes are 600 to 1,000 cc's. And most people say 1,000 cc's, you consider that low? When we're talking about Harleys, yes, 1,000 cc's is a small displacement engine. What is that like? What is that, like 60 cubic inches? Somewhere around there, I think, according to the math I just made up. 60 cubic inches in a Harley. What? If it's not a 107, at least it's not a Harley, right? Am I right? I'm wrong. But seriously, we haven't seen something like this come out of Harley since the V-Rod, which I was actually pretty devastated. That was the last Harley I was really interested in. Matter of fact, I'm pretty sure my next bike is going to be a V-Rod. That is, I will wait and see how these bikes do. I think they're not projected to come out until 2020. This could potentially be a newer V-Rod, I guess. I'm not saying it's gonna be as badass or as powerful as the V-Rod, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that it's kind of showing the potential that Harley had, which despite what everyone wants to say, Harley's better than an air-cooled V-twin. I want everyone to know that. Real Harley guys will tell you all day long, don't fix what isn't broken, and that the air-cooled V-twin is the pinnacle of what Harley ever was. The Evo motors are the best thing to ever come out of Harley. 117 cubic inches, I wipe my ass with 107. What am I trying to say here? It's people like that that kind of keep Harley from progressing to what they really could be, and Harley's own consumers are the ones that are kind of getting in the way of Harley's progression. I'm not saying this is how it is, but just picture this. You make motorcycles. You want to make your motorcycles better, faster, more fuel efficient, and reliable, and less oily, and you build one called the V-Rod, and everyone's like, no. So you have to step back and be like, do my consumers not want good, fast, and reliable? And they're all like, no. That's the kind of shit we're dealing with. In my opinion, could be totally wrong, and I'm sure you guys will correct me. I think that if we see these bikes in 2020, they will either be the absolute best year for Harley, or they will be the worst year. But in 2020, most of those people will probably be dead, right? All right. Enough about the Street Fighter. What about this? The 2020 Custom, which are these big fat bobbery wheels and these like aggressive spokes, the dual exhaust that comes out the side that looks like 2 rocket launchers, an LED bar up front. What the fuck? I love it. I absolutely love this bike. Just the styling and the characteristics of it. It's a weird combination between cafe racer and bobber, and I really absolutely fucking love it. Now, I'm a firm believer you can't sell a factory bobber. You just can't. It's not, according to the name bobber, it doesn't make sense. A bobber is a motorcycle where you've only taken things off. Like, that's what a bobber is. But that doesn't mean you can't characterize a bike as such. You know, it's not like Triumph where they're selling the bobber. They're selling a Harley that looks like a bobber, which I can get behind a little bit more. The custom will also come with a liquid-cooled engine, supposedly, slightly bigger option at 1250 cc's, which is actually close to what the V-Rod's displacement was. Actually, I think the first generation V-Rods were slightly smaller. Regardless, I think this bike is gonna do a really good job at personifying what Harley is. It's like a cool look, and it also has a lot of potential, and blah, 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 blah. I think it's gonna be absolutely a nightmare to steer this bike, probably. I mean, look at that front tire. Look how big that fucking front tire is. If you've ever ridden a classic bobber motorcycle, especially like some of the 48s that they have with those big old front tires, steering's a little heavy. But hopefully with this bike being liquid cooled, it might be a little less top heavy, so who knows, it might counteract itself. I don't know. I digress. Next up on the list is the electric bike. Would you ever in a million years think that Harley was gonna put out an electric motorcycle? Well, if you were around in 2014, then you'd know that they've already been kind of trying to do that. So the Livewire isn't new. I mean, it's been on Jay Leno's Garage, and there was articles about it back in 2014. I will say this, in just 4 years, electric engines have come up as far as quality, reliability, and efficiency, like light years ahead of what it was just 4 years ago. That being said, the previous Livewire model could only get like 60 miles to the charge. It weighed around, I think, 460 pounds, if I remember right. Honestly, 460 pounds is not bad, especially for an electric battery and motor. I mean, 460 pounds isn't bad. So I'll be the first one to admit that Harley can be very innovative. So I'm gonna be very interested to figure out how Harley is gonna make the electric bike leak oil. Now, I've ridden a couple of Zeros, and I like the Zeros. They're very light for what they are. As a matter of fact, I dare say it that this, since it's an electric motor, will be the most well-balanced Harley ever. I'm putting money on it right now, that bike will handle like a dream compared to some of the other Harleys. What I really like about the Livewire particularly is the design and the styling of it. Don't kill me for this, but it has like this like Star Wars look to it, you know? It's like you're riding on this like big massive electric motor, and then the wheels just kind of dwarfed by the size of how big this battery and motor are, and it's got its digital display and everything's kind of just neat and clean, and I have a lot of hopes for this motorcycle, especially since electric bikes are really cool. Notoriously, when you see bikes like this, especially with the Zero, even a lot of Japanese sport bikes, they have that like really kind of cheap hand feel, like the way your clutch and your brake lever feel, and the mirrors, they're all just kind of cheap. One thing Harley has done really well, notoriously in the past, is their hand controls and their mirrors seem to feel really well made. I hate to say it, as a sport bike Japanese guy or whatever you want to call me, Harley has that down really well. All their accessories feel really well made, minus anything that's chrome. And last on the list, we have the most ridiculous thing that Harley has ever produced. This is the Pan America. This is Harley's take on an off-roading motorcycle. You've got BMW, and you've got Suzuki, and you've got all these other companies who've been doing this for years and have it down pat. And then you have this. Me and a friend were joking about this until we started looking at the photo better, and I'm gonna zoom in for you guys. This bike isn't even in the outside wilderness. This is photoshopped. Look at the reflection on the tank. It's in a fucking parking lot. Shade Tree Surgeon really kind of goes into this a little bit better than I can, but if you've ever looked into adventure touring and sport touring, things like the Africa Twin, the Suzuki's DL1000, then you start getting into like high-end BMW off-roading, like the super off-road bikes. Those are very expensive to maintain, buy parts for, and buy in general. Most of these bikes are expensive. I cannot wait to see how much this fucking bike costs to buy accessories for, to maintain. Not only do I bet that this bike is gonna be insanely expensive, I bet it's gonna weigh a fucking ton. And yes, supposedly supposed to be water cooled. Hope that's true. That's kind of one thing you need with adventure touring bikes. A lot of off-roading and adventure touring bikes go slow through terrible terrain in hot summer days. Imagine trekking off-road, going 5 miles an hour on an air-cooled V-twin in hot-ass Africa or some off-the-beaten-path location. Not to mention that this bike looks fucking ridiculous. Look how wide it is. Look how fucking wide. Oh man, this bike's gonna be, I think this bike's gonna flop. But that's just my 2 cents, you know? If you're looking forward to this bike, Good for you. I hope it works out. I don't want to see Harley fail with this bike. I want to see them do something different and new. Of course I do. I just think that this might not work out, but you know, what do I know? Can you imagine how much a fucking windscreen is gonna cost for that thing? The saddlebags, the big heavy bags that say Harley on the side, the trunks, do you know how much those are gonna cost for this bike? That say Harley across the side? It's gonna cost as much as the bike. It's gonna be a fortune. But hey, these are all opinions and speculations. I really hope that I'm wrong. I really do. Tell you what, I'm gonna do something at kind of a gamble here. Tell me why you think I'm wrong in the comment. If you think that I'm wrong about these bikes, or if I'm right or whatever, tell me your opinions. And I promise I will read them. Other than that, I appreciate you guys for wishing me a happy recovery. I'm feeling a lot better now. I'm probably 5 or 6 more days away from being back to 100%. Really, like the pain is almost at a minimum. I'm still required to wear this stupid fucking padded vest for a couple more days. I get my stitches out Tuesday. Thank you guys for checking in on me. Thank you guys for wishing me well on Instagram and all that, and checking out the streams. That's really nice of you guys. Yeah, that's it.